Dear participants, hello and welcome to our training about patent searches or how to use patent as information source. My name is Kamran Hushangpour. I'm IP trainer and patent expert at Swiss Federal Institute of Intellectual Property in Switzerland. And what I do during my everyday life, in fact, as patent expert, is to examine and to search patents. And as IP trainer, I go around the cities. Sometimes I'm a bit more lucky, go to other countries. Sometimes even actually I can come to you, to your house through these piece of training slides. And I explain about IP, why is IP, what is IP, and why is it important. Uh, my work, my everyday work as a patent examiner and patent searcher is, in fact, not only to examine patents, but also I'm a professional patent searcher. And I hope I can make clear by the end of the day why patent searches might, in your case, be so important and why they shall be actually taken as serious in many cases. I hope you will remain until the end with us so I can explain you and conduct you through these slides. So let's start with a summary of what are all objectives of these training. So in this presentation, we are going to talk about other aspects, more practical aspects of the patent. That is actually a patent search. Up until now, we talked about why a patent, what is a patent, how to get a patent, for example, different registration ways, and so on. Here in this presentation, we now find a way to search for that patent. In fact, we are trying to answer four very important questions. First of all, why do we need maybe a patent search? Then, what can be searched in patent databases? Of course, very important question of how to search and where to search. When I'm talking about where to search, I give you some examples, and from those examples, I will select one of them, which for my, let's say, view of things is one of the most important one. That is Espasnet, and we are going to make some exercises in that, let's say, database. So I will show you some examples how to do those type of searches in the Espasnet, and I hope I can then convince you to do it yourself. It means, in fact, actually to really try to do a search yourself to find out how it works, does it work, and where are the problems, why something doesn't go the way you want and something goes wrong. And I hope that these would bring you to the questions, and you will, I hope, have enough time to ask that questions on another session, maybe in a video session, so that I can answer your questions. So let's start actually by asking us the right questions. In this presentation, I would like to make you familiar with patent searches in general. I would like you to know why patent searches are so important and how such a patent search can be conducted. In this presentation, in fact, what we are aiming at is to show how important that might be and how easy it is, in fact, to get into the patent data. That is something which is quite remarkable, as we know, all other types of information might be very costly. For example, search in other literature rather than patent literature, the so-called non-patent literature, for example, in scientific journals and so on, might cost something. You have to pay for that in order to do the search. Uh, while a patent search can be done even on a free basis. So let's talk about patent searches in detail. The goal of this session is mainly to answer four relevant questions regarding patent searches. First of all, we will ask ourselves why a patent search might be necessary. Why should we do a patent search? So we try to answer the question why. Then, if we are more or less convinced that a patent search might be interesting for us, then we shall ask ourselves, okay, what can be searched for? Are there only limited data? Which data are important? And of course, what data is important for me? So what can be searched and what is important for me? And that brings us to the next two questions: how to search, and of course, where to search. Because it is, of course, sure that data are out there, but how to reach to that data and where we can find that data are two different questions. We try to answer to them as well. You will see, in fact, for the question of how to search, I will not give you an instruction how to do it, but I would try to show how I would work, how I try to make my patent searches, as it is part of my daily work. And then the question of where to search, there are a lot of possibilities. What I do, in fact, is to concentrate at the end on just one of those possibilities, and that one is a free one, the one you can actually find for free without paying any money in order to do that. So let's go to our patent searches. You might still remember, while I was talking about introduction to IP, I told you and I described you the deal that exists in the IP systems. So the deal was, in fact, on the one side, you will be given, you here it means actually the owner of the patent will be given an exclusive right. This exclusive right is in order to prohibit other people using it commercially. So we'll have has actually as the only let's say authority person who has to decide who can do it, who cannot do it. On the other side, and that is actually our deal, in order to get that exclusive monopole position, you have to disclose your technical idea, and these disclosure will be published so that everyone has access to it. So on the one side is a patent, of course, a protection title in order to build an exclusive position in the market. On the other side, it is a source of technical information. And that is exactly the part which is of interest when we are talking about the patent search. So in that case, we might, in the first line, be interested more in the technical information which is in the patent rather than the function of patent as a protection title. Then it comes, of course, to a rough estimation that says that about 80% of the information which is contained in patents is published nowhere else. So, in fact, if you ignore, if you neglect the patent literature, you will lose the access to 80% of the knowledge which is written in the patent publications. So does not mean that actually you will lose access to 80% of the knowledge in general, because part of it is also published in other publications, journal publication and so on, but part of it you can only find in the patent literature. Uh, Patent literature has extreme advantages when it comes to search, and that makes it even more interesting to make searches there. But for the beginning, of course, very important part is, and that is the message I want to give to you. There is a lot of knowledge out there which can be searched for. Another good news is, in fact, that among all those patent publications, which was mentioned before, uh, a- about 90% of them are no more in force. So that are patents which are older than 20 years, or they are not no more in force because people they did not pay the annual fees and so on and so forth. Only 10% of publications are protected. So in fact, that means that there are about 90% of an amount of about 110 million patent documents are at free disposal for you. So if you are searching for a solution, if you have a technical question, first thing to think about is actually you are not alone in the world. So maybe somebody else had exactly the same question, and maybe he found a way in order to solve that problem, and that is even patented. Knowing that most of the patent, 90% of them are free, you have actually a free solution to your problem at your disposal. Then uh, even actually reading the older solution might give you an idea of your own how to do it better, how to do it in another way, and that is even actually not that bad because that might give you a possibility to patent your own idea, being new and inventive, of course. Then there are actually these 10% of protected patents, and that are the solution you must know if it comes to freedom to operate. If you are at a certain situation that you want, for example, you want to produce something, what you need is in fact the knowledge about freedom to operate. Can you do it without infringing existing patents? So in that case, these 10%, 10% of publications become even more important than the 90%. So in any case, you need to know that the knowledge which is in that publications, and you shall not neglect them. To sum it up, there are different reasons that might be valid in order to do a patent search. I can just enumerate, let's say, 4 or 5 of them. But you might even think of other reasons which make it actually necessary to do a patent search. One of the first one that comes to my mind is that maybe you have your own idea, and then, in fact, a patent search, in order to evaluate the novelty or the inventive step of the invention, is one step that you shall not neglect, of course, because patenting or the whole patent procedure, including writing the patent and so on, is a procedure that costs a lot of time, energy, and money. And if at the end of the day the idea is neither new nor inventive, so we don't get a patent for that, it's no use to lose so much money before starting that patent procedure. It is, of course, a good idea to do a patent search in order to evaluate the novelty and inventive steps. Then it comes to a second one that is actually to prevent a patent infringement. So if the first one of these two reasons is a nice to have reason, so it is nice to have, let's say, an idea about state of the art before starting the patenting. Okay, so I mean, I would say actually it is even quite cheap to do it rather to the costs you might have, but it is still a nice to have. There is no obligation of doing that. There's no obligation of evaluating your own patentable ideas. There isn't even no obligation to let's say actually to patent your idea. So nobody actually has told you that you are obliged to make a patent application. If you want to do one, maybe it would be nice to do an evaluation of the novelty of the patent subject. However, the second one, that means actually preventing a patent infringement, is a must. It is not just nice to have. In fact, if that is even a no-go to infringe existing patents. So if there are some IP rights out there and you are potentially infringing them, just to go in front of the judge and say I did not know that they existed is not enough. In fact, it is even the duty of the one who did the infringement to make sure that he is not infringing existing patents. So if you did not do your due diligence, then you might have severe problems in front of a judge asking you why did not do any freedom to operate searches. So these freedom to operate searches are very, very important. And if you don't do any other patent searches, these ones you have to do. A freedom to operate patent search is absolutely necessary before starting any business. Then, of course, in order to be sure, it is even going above that, and I would say, in fact, let's even do by a professional that freedom to operate search also for you. So if you did your own, you need still actually to double check it by letting do that by an external view, which is actually a professional searcher. So these searches are very important. You have to do them. Then, for the reason of IP strategy, so maybe actually you are interested and you shall be interested in the surveillance of your competitors, or in order to know what is your IP portfolio, to analyze your own IP portfolio, but also to analyze the IP portfolio, patent portfolio of a competitor. For example, if you want if your company is interested to buy another company, one thing you have to do is one part of the due diligence, in order to make an analysis of the portfolio of that company, because the value of the company, of course, is highly correlated to the value of the patents that company has. So that is another, let's say, reasonable idea why a patent search matters. Then, once you want, for example, if you want to start in a certain field where you were not in that field before. So before starting some business idea in new field, it's good, in fact, to inform yourself about the technical trends in that field. So again, a patent search, a patent time analysis would show how is actually the market there, how are the patenting activities. That is also, in fact, a way to find out statistically which field is of interest. Maybe, in fact, once you have seen this field is actually quite, let's say, quite actually wanted by other, or quite interesting for other competitors, you might even actually decide, oh, that is a minefield. I don't want to go there, and you might find another field where you can actually develop your business without being somehow threatened by big companies having a lot of patents in the first field. So these technical trends analysis, these statistical patent analysis, and so on, are also tools for decision. So you can actually use a patent search. This time, maybe more about the technical, not about the technical, but about statistical analysis of the patent distribution can be used as a management tool in order to decide in which direction company might be directed. Then there is even actually another even not a patent related reason which comes to my mind why you might need a patent search. So it is, for example, for the reason of translation. uh, you remember, as we talked about the novelty, we had the discussion about the word grip and handle, and I tried to make clear why actually these two words are different. So in fact, patent owners normally, when they are patenting their subject in different countries with different languages, they pay a lot of money to translate correctly the technical words in different languages. So, where can you find the best translation of a technical, let's say, a technical word rather than a patent with, let's say, convenient patent publications in those two languages? So a good idea of finding the convenient translation to a technical word might be, in fact, to do a patent search. So find a patent having that word in the language you want. And of course, it shall have another family member in a country with the language you want to translate. So that is actually a quite non-related but valid reason to make a patent search. The whole patenting process costs a lot of money, and that is actually the aim of every company, to reduce the costs. So, in fact, you don't need to invest in some developments that already exist. And what is really due is that to prevent double developments. So instead of spending a lot of money doing patents that have no chance of being accepted because they are not new and inventive, you can use that money more reasonably in order to achieve some new developments. There is an estimation that even in Germany, that is a very and highly seen patent country, there is about 25% of all R&D costs for already existing invention. So that is, the people are in fact investing money, about a quarter of the money, for nothing. So these costs can be reduced drastically just by doing a proper search. And you can, in fact, prevent reinventing the wheel in a literal way. Here's an example how it happens even in most industrialized countries like Great Britain. The problem is, in fact, is coming from the aeronautics and from aviation, and it's quite known. The problem is that when an airplane lands, there is, in fact, a huge amount of veer and excessive veer because at the moment that the wheel, in fact, touches the ground, there is a very high acceleration the wheels are, if are they are actually not moving before, they are accelerating from 0 to about 250, 300 kilometer per hour, which is actually very high acceleration. And these high acceleration causes a huge wear on the rubber on the wheel, which might in fact cause even in certain cases, the explosion of the wheel if the rubber is not good enough. So what normally is done is that people actually use auxiliary or additional electrical motors that let's say try actually to drive the wheels in the air. So at the moment of touching the ground, the wheel is not at a speed of 0 kilometer per hour, but it has a certain speed at the beginning before, so that actually the veer is not that big. However, having an additional motor means actually additional weight, and so that is what you don't need in the aviation. You want, in fact, to have your airplanes as light as it possible. So this company had the wonderful idea. The company on the left side of the slide had the wonderful idea of inventing some sort of pneumatics that include some air pockets. As you can see on the figure with the number 6, you can see actually these air pockets, which are small pockets on the side of the tires, and that make the wheel spin in the wind without the need of additional electrical motor. So I thought actually that would be a very good idea, and that is maybe in fact a very good idea, just having some additional air pocket that can drive the wheel without the need of any auxiliary and additional electric motors. So now, is there any problem? Not really, except that in fact just a very quick and dirty search would show you in, I would say, if you know how to search and you are from these fields of knowledge, you need maybe 15 minutes to 1 hour to find out the document that is shown on the right hand side. And you can see that in fact this solution is known since 1931. The application was done even before it is applied for, as you can see, 1929. So more than 70 years before the application of the newer, in fact, of the newer patent, the other solution was known. So it is not only somehow shaming for people, in fact, reinventing the wheel, literally in that case, after 70 years, but also it is a huge amount of cost they had. The cost they had in order to develop that idea, the cost they had in order to make right that patent, the cost they had in order to go for a registration, and all that could have been prevented if a patent search has been done at the right time. So never start a project without a preliminary patent search is the message of this slide. So now that we are more or less convinced that a patent search is something useful, and we answer to the why question, that would be actually a good idea to think about, okay, which information can be searched, in fact, relating or related to patent documents. So if you remember the patent structure part of the last presentation, we have seen that just on the very first page of any publication, you will find a lot of information that is relating somehow to different persons involved in that patent. As for example, who is the assignee of that patent? Or for example, who is the inventor or who are the inventors? At which date was the application filed? What was the date of publication? Uh, you can even actually see if the patent is granted or is just an application, and if in which countries. Uh, if you go further in that document, you remember that was the whole description and so on, and that was the part which dealt with the technical information. So, what was or what is the object of protection of that patent? Or what was the invention technically? All that information can also be found inside a patent. Due to the data we are interested in, you might find three different type of patent searches. There are, for example, if you are interested in information like who is the assignee, who is the inventor, what was the date of application, who is the representative, in which land was it applied for, what's the document number, are there some citations or references, all that type of data and information that can be found on the very first page of a patent, then you are mostly involved in a so-called bibliographic information or bibliographic search. So that is in fact just a bibliographic search dealing with general information which describes the relative information to a patent. Then, if you are interested in the technical information which is included in a patent publication, then it is in fact more about a thematic search. Thematic searches are mostly the most important part of searches you might be involved in, as you are more of the technical part. So in fact, these are the information about how does it work, what is the technical knowledge which is involved in that patent publication, and then even maybe some references to other information from other publications. Then, if you are interested more about the legal information, such as who is now the owner of the patent, because there is in fact there is a possibility that the patent has been sold. You know, the assignee of the patent is the one who owned the patent at the moment of application. However, the owner of the patent can be someone else due to a transaction which has been done during the lifetime of the patent. So, who is the proprietor? Who is the owner of the patent now? Or, for example, what are the legal statutes of the patent? At what stage is the patent procedure? Is it, for example, just filed? Is it examination, for example, is going on, or it is granted? If the patent is granted, or if it is just applied, is it still in force? Maybe for some reason he did not pay annual fees and it is no more in force. Or if, for example, it is your patent, you might want to know when is the next fee due, when which time you have to pay the next annual fee. So these type of information cannot in general be found on a publication, for the simple reason that a publication is done just one and it is fixed at that date. So, but these information are information that normally can evolve during the lifetime of the patent. So for that type of information, you need another database. These databases are called registries. So these type of legal status searches, that is how it is called, can be done normally in registries, and these registries are either in a let's say national form or in a regional form that can be found for most of them, at least for very important patent offices like USPTO or European Patent Office, directly online. So you have a direct access to that registries and you can actually see online more or less quite up to date what is the legal status of the patent you are interested in. Now we are coming to the last two questions. That is how to search and where to search, especially for the case of thematic searches. So in fact, that are the searches that are of interest for us, and that would be actually the one which we are going to concentrate on. Uh, I'm sure that most of you have intuitively an idea about how to search. Not lately, because, and thanks to Google, most of you have done some searches, some Google searches. I mean, Google searches are nowadays so common that the English language even included a new word. It is Google, to search in the Google, of course. So what are these Google searches? Normal Google searches are the so-called keyword searches. So you put some keywords and you find related documents that include that keywords. So when I'm talking in the keyword searches in the domain of patent, that include also not only let's say information about technical keywords, but also maybe you have some information about other aspects of the patent. For example, who is the assignee or who is the inventor? You might know, actually you search, for example, for certain let's say invention in a certain domain of techniques that is owned by the company, I don't know, Siemens, for example. So at least you know that that is a Siemens patent. Knowing that you have the possibility, I will show you, to search in about 110 million documents. When you reduce it to only Siemens patents, then you reduce the whole field into about, I don't know, from 110 million to about 3 million documents. So it is still actually a huge gain of time. But uh, keyword searches, as good as they might be, have some let's say some weaknesses. And if you are doing some patent search purely by keyword searches, the result cannot be seen as a good one. Good thing is that, in fact, in the patent literature, there is another non-verbal patent search possible. These non-verbal patent searches that is actually patent searches that are not based on keywords is thanks to what we call it patent classes. The patents are classified, and so you can search patents by the related patent classes. Of course, if you find a relevant patent class, then it is, in fact, actually a huge help to search in those classes. And another good news is, in fact, that most of the patents all around the world are nowadays classified due to an international patent classification, which makes it a bit easier to search because these international patent classification is the same for every country, and that might give a hint and a possibility to search even in patent literature that you cannot read because they are written in a language that you cannot understand. I don't know, Chinese, Japanese, or any other language that you might not know. Then there is, of course, a third strategy of search, which is very important. That is, for example, when you find some document and you find that these documents are quite close to the subject of your search. One thing you have to remember is, in fact, to go for the references included or including these documents. So you have to go for documents that are citing these documents, and you can search for the documents which were cited for these documents. These search about citing and cited documents is also called reference hunting. So we search, in fact, for references backwards or forwards references, and that is actually also another very powerful tool which might brings other hits, other searched patents that in fact is quite near to the subject of the search. The good thing about that tool is that these citing and cited documents are normally documents which are cited or citing by a professional patent searcher, somebody from actually a patent office. So, in fact, somebody from a patent office has read these document, had searched for that document, and he cites the other documents. That means, in fact, you can use the whole knowledge and experience of that patent examiner without paying any money for that, just by looking at the forward and backward citing, which is also available, and I will show you how to find them. Patent classes are a wonderful and powerful tool in order to help you by your patent searches. In fact, very early in the patent world, people, especially at the patent offices, found out that they cannot find documents if they throw them around the room somewhere, and so they created some sort of drawers. Patents and publication of a certain field of techniques was put in each of these drawers. So each time when a new application come, which was close to one of these drawers. They pull the drawer, they look if something similar was already known. If it was known, they said, okay, it's not new. And if it was new, they could be accepted, for example. So that was actually just from the beginning. So the problem was that, of course, each patent office did his own patent classification. So each patent office had a certain system developed specially for their needs. And that made it quite difficult for other, let's say, patent offices to find, or for other people searching for the same subject to find in their drawers, because they have to learn for each land, for each country, the let's say the system, and how they decided to classify things. So the good news is that during the past more than 30, 40 years, every or at least most of the patent offices accepted that besides their own classification system, they would also classify due to an international patent classification that gives us the possibility to learn just one or two system of classification, and then even be able to search in other patent offices or in all of the patent offices classification system. So just by knowing one type of classification, it becomes possible to search in a big amount of patent data. So there are several huge advantages of having a classification system. First of all, that is one very wonderful tool to search or to make, in fact, verbal non-dependent, a language non-dependent search. What I mean is that for example, for the case of mechanical inventions, most of the time it is quite easy to understand what the patent is about, what the invention is about, just by looking at the figures. But the point is actually how to find that figure in order to find out if the figure is the invention you are searching for or not. And then, of course, the only mean and without that it would be very, very difficult to find that document is, of course, a patent classification. So by means of a patent classification search, you might find documents without using any language. You can do it even actually in the languages you cannot even read. As I told you, you can search with that tool also in Chinese, Japanese, or any other language that you might not be able to read, just by using the classification systems. And then, of course, going through the figures in order to find out if the invention is that what you are searching, yes or not. Then another big advantage is, in fact, that you gain more objectivity. What I mean is, in fact, that a patent is written normally by the assignee of the patent, by the patent owner, or in most of the cases, by a patent attorney who is paid by the assignee. If for some reason, let's say actually the patent owner does not want that you find the patent, maybe in order to sue you or something, it is easy to ask that certain keywords are prevented. So they write these patents without using certain keywords. So if you are searching only with the keywords, you will never find that document. I will give you some examples of that later when we are talking about keyword searches. Uh, but who is in charge of classification? In fact, there are patent examiners, or in general the patent officers, who are in charge of the patent classification. So, in fact, a patent examiner has to read the patent, and the patent examiner is in general not bound to the patent owner or to the patent assignee. So he will read it and he will put that patent objectively in the classification which is due for that invention. So, in fact, the correspondence of a patent classification and the invention is judged by some person who is objective and who has not actually has not any advantage of misclassification and so on and so forth. So, in fact, you gain more in objectivity. Then you can eliminate ambiguity. So in order to make that clear, I'll give you an example. Let's say we are searching for the keyword hook in English. So if you're searching for the keyword hook, you might find documents which are related to fishing hooks. You know, if you're going to fishing, you need some hooks. And at the same time, you might find some documents which are dealing with the crane hooks. I'm talking about the tower crane hooks, which is used by buildings and so on. So you see actually one of them you don't want. If you're searching, for example, for fishing hooks, you don't need the other one, the crane hooks, and vice versa. So in order to diminish, in order actually to eliminate that ambiguity, patent classification give you the possibility that the hooks are of course classified due to their function, for example, so that hooks for fishing are in one class, and hooks which are thought to be used for building are in another class. So in that system, in fact, you will diminish the force of ambiguity of words, which comes because some words might have several meanings in the same language. So there are, of course, still a lot of patent classification systems. Uh, I would say actually two of the most important ones are International Patent Classification, or abbreviated as IPC, and also Cooperative Patent Classification. It is actually with abbreviation CPC. I will talk about actually IPC and CPC in details just a bit further. But of course, there are still other classification that might be interesting. For example, US patent classification, UCLA, which is becoming less and less important because also the US PTO is now classifying due to CPC. But older documents are still classified due to US patent classification. And of course, for example, Japanese, that is a nation with a lot of patents and a lot of, let's say, relevant patents in different fields of technology. And they have their own patent classification systems. One of them is actually F terms. F terms are pure Japanese classification system, and they are also classifying, of course, due to IPC, and they have their own system which is based on IPC, which is called FI terms. So if you are interested in the fields where, for example, Japanese are very, very important, it is also nice to know that these F terms and FI terms searches are possible. IPC, also said International Patent Classification, and CPC, Cooperative Patent Classification, are consisting of 8, respectively 9 sections. So there is a section A for human necessities, section B for performing operations, transporting, section C, it is about chemistry, metallurgy, section D, textiles and papers, section E, fixed constructions, section F is about mechanical engineering, lighting, heating, weapons, and blasting. Section G is the reason why I'm here. It's about physics. Section H is about electricity, and CPC has another additional section which is dealing with new technological developments, cross-sectional technologies, and so on and so forth. So, if you are searching for 3D, for example, or any nano, let's say, inventions and so on, that is a section where you can find that CPC, not really at IPC. I will also mention then what are the similarities and the differences between IPC and CPC a little bit later. IPC and CPC are both building on a sort of hierarchical structure. So you start normally with a section level, then it comes to a class level, then you have some subdivisions on subclass levels, Then you're going to group and subgroup and even below these subgroups levels. So a typical class in IPC is like it is written on the last line, A60B49/02. So that is actually a subgroup where you can find, and then what you can find there, you will find just in front of it is about frames. So the problem is actually, I mentioned before that these groups are quite non-ambiguous. However, a word like a frame is actually very, very ambiguous word, because which frame would we mean here? Is it about, for example, the frame of a window? Is it about the frame of your glasses? Or is it about, I don't know, a frame of some painting on your wall? In order to find out which frame is meant, and in order to become univoc and not ambiguous, you have in fact to go the whole hierarchy up until the higher level, and then it becomes quite clear what it is about. So now it is about frames. Then you go to the higher level of what? Of tennis, badminton, or like rackets. So in fact, it is about frames, tennis or badminton or other rackets frames, and not any frame, any other frames which I was mentioning before. So if it is still not quite clear what is it about, you can still go one level higher. So which tennis, badminton, or like rackets? The one which are belonging to the subclass apparatus for physical trainings, gymnastics, swimming, climbing, or fencing, ball games, training equipment. And that is, of course, is a part of the higher level class, which is about sports, games, amusement, and the whole is under the section human necessities. So, in order to understand a class, what you have to do, in fact, is actually to find out what is the description of that subgroup, for example, you're searching. And in order to find out what is really meant, you have always to go to higher levels in order to have the whole picture. Then, for the reason of subgroups, you will see that there are some points. For example, just in front of the word frames, you will see 1 point. Uh, the subgroups of subgroups would have more and more points. So a 2 point subgroup is normally the lower level to a 1 point subgroup. And a 3 point subgroup is in fact under a 2 point subgroup, which is by itself under a 1 point subgroup. So even the points actually will somehow define to which a higher level you have to go, and to in order to find out what is the class about. So that was about the similarities of IPC and CPC. So what is the difference between, or what are the differences between IPC and CPC? In fact, CPC is a classification system which is based on IPC, but it goes even to deeper levels. So most of the cases, in fact, when a class is ending in IPC, you would still find some subclasses, subgroups of that class in CPC. CPC is a classification system which was put to function by, on the one side, European Patent Office, and on the other side, USPTO. These are actually the two of the biggest patent offices in the world, and they got together in order to in fact classify due to CPC. Nowadays, a lot of other countries are also classifying due to CPC. As for example, Chinese patent office is also classifying due to CPC. almost all of European national patent offices are doing also a CPC classification. Uh, as I told you, also actually Americans and the Europeans in the European Patent Office. So uh, as we can see here, the difference is actually more than 1 to 4. So for about 70,000 groups and subgroups in the international patent classification, we have about 260,000 CPC groups and subgroups. So almost each subgroup in IPC would have 4 or more subgroups in CPC. That means, in fact, there are then the subgroups become more and more precise. So that, in fact, if you are searching for, I don't know, 3,000 documents about frames of tennis rackets, it is maybe hard to search all of them. But if you go to the subgroups in CPC, there are actually 4 more, which allows you in order to be more precise, maybe just to search in one of these subclasses, and that is no more than 700, 800 documents, which becomes reasonable to search in. So exactly the same class as we had before, A60B 4902, which was about tennis, badminton, or lark rockets frames, has, as you can see, 4 subgroups which are in fact below these classes. For example, we have in the CPC A60B 49027, it is about the throat section, that is sections and elements between head and handle. So if you are just searching the throat search section of a tennis rocket frame, then that is a class you have to search for. Then you have actually, even under these 2-point classification, a 3-point classification, which is about T-shaped connection elements between head and handle. So you have a T-shaped connection elements between head and handle of throat section of the frames of tennis and badminton or lark rackets. So as you see, actually, the 3-point is under 2-point, and the 2-point is under 1-point, and that is actually the way you have to read it. Then you have other 2-point classifications, sub-classifications, for example, with easily dismountable parts, for example, head, handle, or grip. Of frames of the rackets, or for example, you have another one that is A63B 49 slash 0294, which is about with head subframes for replacing the stringing. So if you are searching for frames of tennis and badminton or like rackets which has a possibility and subframes in order to replace the stringing, then that is the subclass you are searching for, and then you can go through these. The point is, in fact, even if IPC and CPC are quite good, and you can actually do a good search in them, uh, there are some maybe difficulties to know which class is really the class you have to search for. So, uh, I mean, there are, as I told you, about 260,000 subgroups in CPC. Nobody can know them by heart. And even if you are working on a regular basis with that classes, the classes might change. They're actually subject to change from time to time as new technologies come and so on. So they might change on the one side. On the other side, it is impossible to know all of them. There are, of course, possibilities of class searches. When we are talking about where to search, I will show you some possibilities how to search, for example, CPC classes by some keywords. You put some keywords and find out in which classes that invention might be classified. But there are other possibilities as well. That one of them is actually that, for example, your classification does not really cover exactly the invention, because there are inventions that are not fitting in just one classification. So in those cases, you have to see if there are some, let's say, some classification which you can cross and so on. And knowing all of that classification is not possible. So the question is actually, okay, classification is a good way to search, but classification search alone is almost impossible. So we can and we might need another way of classification, another way of a search, which is complementary to classification search. So the complementary way of searching, which is also quite familiar somehow for all of us, is exactly the keyword search. So you can, of course, use, and you know how to use that. That is why actually I want to give you just some, let's say, hints how to do it more effectively, how to be more efficient when you are searching in the patent domain. So first thing is to find out and to provide a list where you have the essential characteristics of the invention that you are searching for, or the essential characteristics of the technical solution that you are searching for. And then the next step would be, in fact, try to build concepts. So first thing is actually, for example, I am searching in this example for a rolling board uh, uh, from an inventor that I know. His name is actually Wim Uboter, which has an exchangeable, elastically deformable footboard. So there are, in fact, four essential characteristics of this invention. All of them are the so-called concepts. So you have four concepts that you search at the same time. A concept of a rolling board, the concept of a footboard that is elastically deformable and it is exchangeable. So now we are building these concepts. And you see actually on the just on under the sentence about the example how these concepts in fact were constructed. So now inside each of these concepts, what you have to search for are the synonyms that can be used by other people. So people are not calling rolling board each time. They might find other words, as for example, scooter or skateboard. These are all synonyms to rolling board. Then maybe they don't call it footboard, or they call it just, I don't know, board. So these are actually synonyms for footboard. Then if we are talking about exchangeable, maybe people actually call it removable or detachable or disassemblable. So these are other synonyms to the word exchangeable. And then elastically deformable is also another concept. Now, once we have all these concepts, we may construct our search string by using uh, operators and truncations. So The operators that we use are the logical Boolean operators. So because we need all these concepts to be present in the solution we are searching for, we have to connect these concepts together between them with a logical and. But inside the concept, the synonyms are words that might be used in that way or not. So the connection inside the concept is in fact by a logical or. So for example, I'm searching for a scooter or skateboard, and then it now comes actually the second concept, board or footboard, and now it comes to a third concept, deformable or elastically deformable. And then it is actually the fourth concept, removable or detachable or disassemblable. Then the truncations also are mostly used. You might know it from Google as well. The truncations are signs which somehow stand for other signs. So we are talking about them, or the possibilities we have when we are talking about the tool that you are going to use in order to do the search. But in general, is for example, in order to search for, I don't know, scooter or scooters, then you might have a possibility to just search for a scooter with here, for example, a star as a truncation that also includes the possibility of having other sign after the letter R in scooter. So sometimes the applicant simply doesn't want his patent to be found. It is maybe generally not correct, but that can happen. But even there are cases where the patent jargon is a bit different than the words we use in our everyday life. The following 2, 3 slides will demonstrate that in different fields of technology, how people describe notions and terms without using them. As I told you, sometimes it is even necessary in order to keep the whole thing a bit general. So if you use a certain term, it might be too narrow as the protection term. And in order to keep the protection as broader as possible, you might use general terms which include also the specific terms we are thinking of. But that all shall show you that the patent jargon might be different, that the words you might use in your keyword searches. So that is why keyword search alone is never complete and cannot be complete. So you need, in fact, to think of the possibilities people have and people might use it. Here, some of those examples in mechanics and electronics. For example, people are using the word writing instrument instead of pen or pencil. Um, Things which are even more curious, in order not to talk about ball bearings, uh, they use the term a plurality of balls. Then fastening means very often used in order to generalize a term that includes nails, screws, rivets, etc. Everything that might be used in that case. And even more strange is the case of one of the cases I've seen in my career. Somebody describing a spring as energy storing means, which is not wrong. Which is quite correct, because a spring might be used also as energy storing means. However, when you are thinking of a spring, you are mainly thinking of the back force of a spring and not about the energy storing means. We can also see the same or similar examples in the fields of electronics or chemistry or pharmaceuticals. These are two other examples how different the patent jargon might be from the one you think of. For example, using the term elongate member in order not to say that we are talking about pipes, riser, cable. In that case, it was about an optical fiber. Or, for example, describing some object like a spherical object with floppy filaments to promote shore capture, and all that said, it is just about a toy ball. These are some examples from electronics and electrotechnics. Um, Normally, actually, when you are thinking of batteries, you might even think of accumulators, but these guys found even a better term to describe it: electrical power source for electronic circuits, or saying semiconductor switching device with a control electrode, and all that is just a transistor. Or galvanically isolated electrical coupling means it is actually a transformer. Or photo transmitting device, which is in fact nothing else than a normal LED. In the field of chemistry, and also for different reasons, you might find such sort of replacing terms and or describing notions. For example, it is normally avoided to use trademarks in a patent description, but of course, it is even more important not to use trademarks in a patent claim. So, in order to avoid using the word Teflon, uh, people are using terms like water and oil repellent surfaces, or using terms like water soluble or water dispersible polymer, which is nothing else than polyacrylic acid or polyvinyl alcohol. If you talk about super absorbent, that is nothing else than gel of polyacrylic acid. Uh, or if you are talking about expanded styrenic copolymer or polymer, it is nothing else than polystyrene, or it is even more known under the trademark name styrofoam, or polyisoprene, which is nothing else than a natural rubber. Ionomer, that is a copolymer for ethylene and salts of acrylic acid. Then you have graft copolymer of vinyl aromatic monomers on a butadiene rubber. That is simply the plastic which is used for Lego bricks, has actually an acronym of ABS, or again, people maybe not use the word PET, which is quite non, and they use other terms like aromatic polyester. In the patent jargon, we are doing also some distinctions and some differentiation uh, among other words which we might use normally as synonyms. For example, if we are talking in patent jargon about comprising, about consisting of, or consisting essentially of, there are in fact different meaning to them. So once you say, for example, a composition comprising A, B, and C, that means in fact you have a mixture where you have at least A, B, and C. This mixture might have included anything else, but he shall have at least A, B, and C. So if you have a mixture A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, no problem. That is a composition comprising A, B, and C. A good example for that is actually if we say a composition comprising a solution of lactic acid in alcohol and water. Uh, in fact, it can be also wine, because wine has lactic acid, alcohol, and water. So that is actually what wine also is consisting of, but it is not only that. So if you say comprising, it might include other things. If we are talking about consisting of A, B, and C, it means it is constructed only and only by these blocks, by these actually components. So a mixture comprising A, B, and C, it is a mixture which only A, B, and C are present, nothing else. So this time, if we say, for example, a composition consisting of a solution of lactic acid in alcohol and water, then it cannot be wine, because wine has, of course, water, alcohol, and lactic acid, but a wine also includes many other substances that are not present here. So consisting of means exactly the same components, while comprising means it can have even more than that. Then, when we are talking about, for example, a composition consisting essentially of A, B, and C, it means, in fact, that is a mixture which has, of course, A, B, and C, but it may include further components, but these components shall not negatively affect the effect of the invention. So again, it becomes very, very actually technical, because it is not because um, they have actually a higher degree of presence or not that they are not important. They shall not affect the effect of invention. So if you're talking about composition consisting essentially of a solution of lactic acid in alcohol and water, it can again be wine, depending in what are other, let's say, what are other present components, and if these other components in wine would not affect the effect which was needed or which was described by the invention. Um, Almost the same and analogic in the same and analogic way, uh, these terms are used also in for example, mechanical engineering, and or also in other fields of techniques. So just to tell you, if you talk about a in the patent jargon, if you are talking about a table uh, consisting of a plate and let's say one food, then these table has shall have only a plate and one and only food. While if you're talking about, I don't know, a table comprising a plate and one food, it means, in fact, if you have a table with 4 feet, it is also part of these claim, because it has 4 feet, but because it has 4 feet, it has, of course, also 1 feet. So that is minimum which was asked for. So you have one plate, at least one food, but you have three other feet to get there, which does not affect actually what was said. So comprising and consisting of are not exactly synonymous in the jargon of the patent, and one shall be careful while reading patents in order to understand what is claimed and what is said there. There's also uh, some special patent jargon in pharmaceuticals. So if you come across some, let's say, notion like ophthalmic solution, it is in fact any solution which is suitable for the application to the eye. So it can be actually water or anything that can be applied to the eye. Of course, then you have some exclusion, let's say by saying that a sodium hydroxide solution with a very high pH is not suitable to put into the eye, so that is excluded. But anything else which has an acceptable actually pH can be used here. Then, if you are talking about pharmaceutically acceptable carrier, again, it depends on what context we are talking about. So, any substance that a man of skill, somebody who's working in the field, would use for preparing a medicament, for example, cellulose, glycerol, starch, and anything else. So again, it is somehow very, let's say, very broad, and does not really restrict to special cases. Then, when we are talking about the device for mixing the pharmaceutical ingredients, uh, there again, it is nothing very special. So you shall not think of something which is very specialized for mixing pharmaceutical ingredients in particular. That can be any apparatus or mixer which is suitable for this purpose, who can do it. It shall not necessarily come from the pharmaceutical area, and it can also be a household mixer or something like that. If these household mixer does the effect that is here and the aim of the sentence. You should remember, as we talked about the novelty, and I told you, in fact, if you have something like a vessel for watering plants, you have to interpret that sentence like anything which is suitable for watering plants. Our example was that, okay, even an oil can be used as a vessel for watering plant, and it does the affair. So it is good enough for us. That shall be a bit revised when it comes to pharmaceuticals. In pharmaceuticals, a sentence like pharmaceuticals composition comprising X and Y for use in the treatment of the disease Z, then in fact the intended use is taken into consideration. It is not just that it is suitable for, but the intention to use shall be taken into consideration. There you might have two possibilities. If the composition has never been used in medicine before, then that is the case of a first medical use. And if at least the specific use has not been described before, I mean, the composition has been used in medicine, but not for that specific use, that it is about the second medical use. So these considerations are quite important for the interpretation of especially patent claims. With all that what we have mentioned before, now we can come to a sort of uh, answer to the question of how to search. In fact, there is no good way, no best way, no bad way of searching. And if you search for some document and you find it, nobody will later ask you, how did you find that? It is unfortunately just the contrary if you cannot find a document. That is why me, as a professional patent searcher, I would rather search in the manner I will describe it to you now. This is the way we are using, and at the end I will tell you why we are using this way. But that does not mean that you have to do exactly the same thing. It is just a way which is more or less comprehensible and has always quite good results. The point is that as as the patent documentation grow every day, and you have more or less about 1 to 2 million documents more per year. and now we are coming at some 100, 200 millions of documents out there that can be searched. It becomes more and more impossible to make the search easily. So that is why we need, in fact, let's say, an analogic way in order to make these searches. So in my case, I start normally with a sort of a preliminary search, which is we call it normally quick and dirty search. At the beginning of the search, I do not know nothing about possible classes that might be interesting. In some cases, when I am searching at that field for a long time, maybe I have some idea, but most of the time, it is know that we don't know which classes might be interesting exactly. So typically, these quick and dirty search would include some keywords. Through these keywords and a quick and dirty search, I will reach some hits that I can cite. By citing these hits, I will find out which IPC or CPC classes are the most relevant one at the first sight, of course. Are there some inventors, some assignees who are very active in that field, and so on? Then uh, maybe some keywords, some synonyms and keywords that I forgot, can I actually extract from the hits I found. What I do next is to make or construct some blocks using keywords and synonyms and classes, and then link them together and build out of that concepts I told you, some search string using operators and truncations by putting the concepts 1, 2, 3 together, and then make a search in the relevant classes. So every now and then, when I have some real good hits among them, what I don't forget to do is, in fact, to do a reference hunting. I'm going to search for citing and cited documents of these good documents. It has, in fact, the favor that citing and cited documents for a document are documents that are very close to that field. So I might find aspects that I have not found in those documents in these citing and cited documents. Then it is actually an iterative approach. So finding these documents, these hits might give me further CPC classes, further keywords, further inventors, further assignees, and I go back, step back to the block or concept construction, search string building, again searching, finding hits, and I do that iteratively up until a moment that I have no more time, or I actually somehow used all of my resources that was at my disposal to do this search. So at that point, what I do is, in fact, I end the search and I will document it. So the documentation will contain what are the keywords that were searched. What are the classes, IPC, CPC classes? What are the inventor names? What are actually the competitor names? And in which, under which actually search strings these are all searched. So this documentation is, in fact, a quite important part of the search. First of all, you document what you did. So if somebody comes with the question, how did you do that? You can actually explain it. But it is not only that, it is also a help for further searches. If somebody wants now to continue on that search, he can do it just by reading what you did. So he knows that part of the search has been done. So if he wants now to make further search, he has to go for other, let's say, patent classification for other keywords and so on and so forth. If at the end of the day you did not find the document you wanted, and somebody asks you why you did not find that document, these documentation of the search, these manner of doing the search make it easy to explain why you did not find that exact document and how you worked, because that is a very intuitive and analogic way of doing the search. That is the main reason why we are doing searches in that manner. As I told you, doing the search is something free. Everybody can find out his way of searching, using, of course, the elements that you have at your disposal. Don't forget patent classification. Don't forget keyword search, of course, using as many synonyms as you can. And don't forget, of course, the reference hunting. So it remains now the last question, where to search. So in order to answer this question, I will give you a list of possible search sites where you can do the search online or using actually your computer in a way. I would say actually, let's talk about first about the free of charge possibilities. The one and the only, the one that actually I would recommend you to use, and then we are going to work on that platform again, is Espasnet. Espasnet is the database that the European Patent Office put into use. It has more than 110 million patent documents from more than 100 countries. You can access immediately via your internet access, and so the rest of it is actually your time that might cost you something. There is no other cost foreseen for using the Espasnet. I will tell a lot more about Espasnet later, so let it aside. Just to say that, in fact, even if it is the database of European Patent Office, that does not mean that they are only working for their own patents. In fact, European Patent Office decided to put his service at the disposal of everybody, and they have the mission to put every patent which is sent to them from a patent office, to gather that and to put it in that their actually own database. So if a patent is not there, it is not because European Patent Office did not want these patents to be there. It is just because the concerning patent office did not send that publication to them. Then you have also another quite big patent database out there. It is said his name is actually Departisnet. Departisnet is the database of the German Patent and Trademark Office. Um, it is almost as big as Espasnet, 85 million patent documents and patent publications there. It, I have to say that that is actually something that might be interesting if you are searching purely in German documents. It was at the time, as these type of searches was restricted possible at the Espasnet. It is no more the case. So in fact, from those two, I would actually rather go to the Espasnet, because there you have actually much more possibilities, and there you can find almost everything you're searching for. There are also other patent databases which are quite interesting for certain users, for certain, let's say, applications you might have. One of them I have to mention is, in fact, Lens. The Lens database has the very, very special characteristic. It allows everybody, in fact, to make gene sequences searches in the patent, which is actually a very huge and a very big help if you are working in that field. So if you are working in the field of biotechnology, or fields that need to make some searches in the domain of gene sequences. Lens is one free of charge database where you have the possibility to do that. They have somehow their own database where you can access uh, all USPTO patents, Australian patents, European patents, and also the PCT application. So that is very special, I would say. If you are working for in that field, don't forget these databases. Otherwise, again, there are other databases that might be a little bit more interesting. Um, Another one which shall be mentioned is, of course, Google Patents. I have to say that Google Patents is a very powerful search engine. Of course, they have let's say, all the knowledge of searching of Google. So I would say that is actually quite a big tool. And why I did not mention them at the first point. First of all, because I don't know in which database are they searching. So it's for sure they have access to all US patent and US patent applications. They have access to most of the EP patents and also PCT documents. However, if there is an access to other documents, I don't know. I'm not aware of. On the other side, it's not the only reason I don't mention them. On the other side, the reason why I did not mention them the first point is that that is, even if it is free of charge, that is a database which is financed by a company who makes profits by gathering your information. So, at least from my side, I would say actually I am the one who is working for a patent office. And in our consideration about, let's say, being confidential, using Google Patents to search is quite a bit dangerous. Uh, I don't want to say that Google do expose your data to other people, but the point is that you don't know what could be done with your data. So if you don't have any concern about confidentiality, what I actually doubt, then of course go and use Google. If yes, yeah, take it with consideration. There might be some possible, let's say, concern about the confidentiality of the data you give to Google. Then there are, of course, another one which I have to mention, that is which is called under the name of FPO. These free patent, let's say, database, as the name actually somehow involves that, has also not only access to usual documents, US, European, PCT, and Japanese documents. The good thing about free patents online is that they have also access to some of the non-patent literatures. Uh, that is, some journal articles. So you can search at the same time in patent literature and maybe also in non-patent literature. So in that aspect, that might be also an interesting alternative of search. Um, all that has been said, we can also search in other, let's say, governmental databases. When I'm talking about governmental databases. Of course, I'm talking about databases which are mostly available on the internet, and they are somehow managed by national offices. One of them is even actually the international one, the patent scope, which is managed by WIPO. Uh, you can find actually all the WIPO PCT applications. You can find even a bit more nowadays in that. Um, Again, it is up to you if you want to do that. I would say actually you have access to them through other databases like SPASnet. So in that case, I would say it is up to you if you want to do it or not. And you have actually, of course, the patent database of USPTO, where you have access to all let's say applications, publications, and publication of the patents. Um, Good thing about that is, of course, then more or less direct access to the registries, to the USPTO registries. When we are talking about SPASnet in detail, I would tell you that even through SPASnet, you would have the same access or more or less the same access, sometimes even easier. So that might be actually a reason to do that. But in any case, if you are interested in the registries, and there are not all of the registries directly accessible from SPASnet, you might need to access directly the patent databases of different countries. You can find a list of these patent databases on the site I mentioned here from WIPO. WIPO try to gather and keep it up to date. So just as an example, if you want to have an access to Hungarian patent database or registry, that's actually where you can find at least a link to that patent office, to the search engines of that patent office. Uh, no, we can also talk about other type of patent databases. In fact, I'm talking about somehow databases for which you might need to pay. Of course, it is not my duty to make publicity for billable patent databases, and that is the work they have to do themselves, not by my person. If I mention their names, it is because these patent databases that I mentioned here have all of them have at least one feature which is quite interesting and that cannot be found somewhere else. That is the case of STN. STN offers more than 200 different databases. It has the possibility of STN Easy, which is actually a web-based search. So you can actually do the search without any installation. Of course, you have to pay the access and so on, and you will build actually quite a lot. It is these are databases that are charging you per minute. So there are even some of them that charge you of some let's say hundreds of dollars a minute of use of that database. So you can see how all of a sudden actually expensive the search can come out. The good thing about STN is actually they give you a lot of possibilities of searches, especially in the case of chemistry and so on, which is not provided elsewhere. For example, if you want to search, let's say, a chemical structure, SDN has the possibility to make it easy to search for a chemical structure, which is quite difficult to be searched just by using keywords and so on. So This chemical structure search is one of the very important advantages of that database. They have also actually a lot of helps in searching also gene sequences and so on and so forth. A bit, of course, much more professional than the one you might find on Lens. And in those cases, I would say actually in biotechnology, in chemistry and so on, the SDN would be actually a very, very important tool for you. Then you have, of course, ProQuest, which is the world leading data provider. They have an access to more than 1,200 databases, not only patent databases, but also all types of patent databases. So these provider will give you actually the possibility to make a very broad search. So if you want to go for broad searches and so on, ProQuest might be the right solution for you. Otherwise, of course, you can try to do your searches by the means of databases we mentioned before. Now to the last two peelable patent databases that have some special features. Uh, One of them is actually, and one of the important one is actually the Derwent patent database, which has some added value. That is a patent database having more access to more than 40 million patent documents, but they put something on the top of it. One of the added value they have is that they read the patents themselves and they rewrite an abstract. Uh, Also for example, Chinese or Japanese documents. So they have people that read in Chinese, Japanese, and so on, and they rewrite a patent abstract in plain English. So that is their added value. Their added value. They have their special form of indexation and codes, which comes close to actually to the classification we saw. They have their own classification if you want, but that is another way of classification that might be also very helpful when we are searching for certain documents. So these added values of Derwent makes it actually quite valuable for certain types of searches. Then you have, of course, chemical abstracts. That is maybe known to people who are working in that field, in the chemistry field. Again, that is some very important database for patents and scientific literature, the so-called non-patent literature in the field of chemistry and biotechnology. A very important tool, the so-called CAS number, CAS number, even called after them chemical abstract. So this CAS number gives you the possibility to search for chemical compounds if you know the CAS number. So that is also very important actually, especially for the case of patent searches in the field of chemistry and biotechnology, as I told you. So last databases I want to remind of are, of course, the databases which are dealing with legal stages and where the legal stages searches shall be conducted in. So these are registers in general. We can find different registers of different countries. You can find them by a simple search. I give you some of them. For example, the one which we are in charge of, the register of all IP rights in Switzerland and Liechtenstein, which can be found on swissreg.ch, or the register of European Patent Office, uh, German register, as well as US register. So if you want, for example, you might have the possibility just to make a check if you can do it yourself. Try to find out if the patent number EP 1096,980 is still in force in Switzerland. Easiest thing is, of course, to go on the Swiss register, www.swissreg.ch, go to the patent part. This register is in four languages: English, French, German, and Italian. So you can find a language which you understand the best. Go there, put a number in it. When you're searching for, you have the possibility to search for trademarks, you have the possibility to search for patents. Of course, you have to search for patents, and then put the number, and you will find if these patents still alive or not, and if not, from which date on, and if yes, how long is these patents still actually in force. So uh, that is the way it's normally function. There is actually a also a sort of centralized database which is called INPADOC database. The INPADOC database, it has a very specific function that it has, in fact, uh, a lot of information about legal status of family members of a patent. So the good thing is that if you find, for example, a patent, you know that these patents might also be applied for, and might also be in fact registered in other countries. So all of them are family members. And then you will find in INPADOC information, a centralized information about all family members, the all legal status of family members. You have an access to that INPADOC family either by billable, for example, databases, as the one we mentioned before, for example, SDN, but you have also a direct access over free of charge databases, especially over the SPASnet. So we can actually even access that one without paying money. Problem, the data are not always up to date. So in fact, what you find there, you might find there the patent is no more in force. And that is the worst case because once you find out that is no more in force, you might think you are safe now. And the problem is that the patent database, or the INPADOC database, was not up to date, and the patent could be revived after that date, and you don't know that is still in force. So, in fact, the one and only information that matters at the end in front of a judge is the information you get from the concerning patent office. However, at least you have a sort of idea of if the patent might still be in life or not, or what other legal statutes are there. The other problem with the INPADOC is that the data is not always complete. So if it matters for you, if it is really actually something you need it in front of a judge, you have to double check it. Then in that cases, as I told you, what I will emphasize again is please, for the cases that matter, and that is something which shall be juridically perfect, the only way which remains actually is to go to each office, each patent office, or to contact each patent office and have a at least a confirmation from that patent office, which is sent to you either electronically or by mailing, by post and mail. So that was what we all what we could say about where to search. And then, of course, in order now to understand how really practically a search can be done, in the next steps, I will invite you to become familiar with a special patent database that is ESPASnet, and we will work on that. And I hope that you will conduct at the same time, also after looking through the next about 30 slides, you start conducting your own patent searches, and we can then talk together afterwards in order to correct maybe the mistakes you will find, or of course also to respond to your questions when the time comes. So ESPASnet, the biggest database or patent database out there, free of charge, that you can find. Uh, this is the database of the European Patent Office, but as I said before, it is not just restricted to European patents, but in fact, they have the mission, they actually impose themselves the mission to gather every and each patent that they can access to. The address is quite easy. So you type worldwide.espasnet.com, not www.espasnet.com, worldwide.espasnet.com, and you are automatically on this patent database. Some figures and facts about ESPASnet. It is the largest free of charge patent database you can find, and you have access to more than 110 million patent documents out there from more than 100 countries in the world. So you will see, in fact, that is a huge database of knowledge that you have at your disposal. You can make a keyword search, of course, also in other languages rather than English. You can make also keyword searches in other languages, German, French. You might be even actually successful in doing some keyword searches in abstract and in title in Spanish. However, what you shall know is, in fact, that in order to search the broadest possible, it is somehow, that's my advice to you, that you should use English keywords when searching in abstract and title. Why is it so? It is because that almost all the patents from in the past 30, 40 years have at least one abstract and one title in English. So if you want to be the broadest possible, uh, that is the way to do. You search with English keywords, then you are sure that you are also searching in patents that are not written in one of the Roman language, let's say, in Roman languages, for example. If you search in Chinese or also in Japanese documents, of course, in a full text search, you cannot search in English, but by searching in keywords, your keywords in abstract and title, if it is in English, you are also searching in those patents. Then you have the possibility of a full text search in all three official languages of European Patent Office, so in German, in English, and in French, which means, in fact, you can have access to each English written publication. You will have access to all of the French written patent documents, and also to all of the French and German, actually, written patents. From which country if it is. So that is also actually a big deal, because most of the patents might have been a family member in one of those countries, in the United States, in England, or for example, Germany, France, and so on. So you can actually access them by using these three languages. Then the possibility of patent classification used by the search. We emphasize that is very important, and you have these possibilities. You can really, once you have a good classification, you can search in that classification in the search fields of Espasnet. You have access to Inpadoc database I mentioned just before, which gives you an access to legal status of almost all the family members of documents. For the part of EP, European patent documents, patent office documents, the Inpadoc is also up to date. So that is actually also good news if you want to know something more about the legal status of that European Patent Office document, and then you know that at least in that case the legal statutes are up to date. Uh, uh, Big possibility of machine translation of the documents. So today's actually Espasnet is quite good at that. The translations are machine translations, so you cannot expect a big deal, but at least these machine translations will allow you to understand somehow what the thing is about, even if they are not correct and if they are not, let's say, perfect in their way of being translated. I will show actually these possibility later, so we will see that you have really a big possibility of translations in almost any language you want. Then most of the patents can be downloaded, most of the publications can be downloaded as PDF files. Again, if you want to have them for later, you can download them, put them aside, and you have always access then to the PDF file on your local disk. Espasnet gives you a lot of possibilities for the search, and they actually provide you with a lot of nice features, of course. However, don't forget that each search engine has its, of course, limitations, and here's one that you have to take into consideration. So, Espasnet search is not a complete substitution for a professional search. And it is not, of course, because you need also the knowledge of searcher in that case. So let's say the knowledge of searcher will come with your own knowledge, but it still remains that the features are somehow limited when you are doing a search. Uh, uh, One of them is that actually you have a maximum of uh, uh, 10 search terms per field, which you can actually put into the search. And it comes to actually a total maximum of 20 search terms and 19 operators per mask. So if you are combining things, very, very complicated things, you are sure that you are coming very early into the limitation. What other limitation is actually how to cite the documents. We will see some examples, and you will see it is much easier now, but it still remains the problem of citing. So looking at these documents, if you have I don't know, 100, 200 is maybe doable. If you have 1000, it becomes very tiring very, very soon. So it is not exactly what you think you can do everything with that. At least for a preliminary search, it will be very, very useful. And that is why Espasnet is there. So you have to use it in a proper way. Then you have to know that most of the search fields are linked between them by AND. So there is actually a logical AND between them. If you don't want that, be careful and change it. There is a possibility to use also the logical NOT, very, very, you have to be very precautious by using the word or the logical, let's say, search combination not, because not might exclude exactly the publications you need. So I will give a reminder on that when we are looking through actually some patents, but keep in mind that not shall be used just in very exceptional cases. Then not all the documents has an abstract and or a title and or a classification. I give you actually an example. If you had the time, and I'm sure you will find the time, go and search for these US document, and you will see that is actually one of the most important documents ever. And we all have used it once. The invention which was described in that patent. I'm sure all of us have used that invention, but you cannot find actually much about that patent except for that the patent existed. So that is the one. Of course, the patent is very known, as I told you, and you might find other family members that you can read, but that special American patent you cannot find. So once you put the address I gave you, worldwide.espasnet.com, in your browser, you will find these masks in front of you. There is actually in the middle, you see it, there is a video. You can, if you want, you can watch the video. It is nothing very special, but you can already start searching from this page on. So on the top, actually, I circled with in red the part where you can start and put your search terms. On the left side, on the top, you can even choose a language. If it is not exactly the language you want to search, you will find out in official languages or office languages. You will find, of course, the office languages: English, German, and French. I put it here in English, but you can even actually choose other languages. You will find a lot of languages there. So you can, for example, choose Spanish, but in that case, you're only searching in patents in Spain, for example. Very, very not as general as in this case. Uh, uh, let's be general and do it in English, and so that we can actually search in all the patents. Then you can start in the mask in red. In fact, already what you want. It is called Smart Search. You have this Smart Search at your disposal at any time of your search. Then this smart search has a huge advantage. That is actually, if, for example, you are not sure about yeah, the function, you can put the keywords still there. I give you an example. If you don't know, you are searching for patents of a Mr. Let's say John Smith, but you don't know if John Smith is the owner or is the inventor. So don't bother doing searches actually which one is one. You put John Smith in the smart search. These mask will search all the patents which have John Smith as owner, but also the ones where actually John Smith is actually as the inventor. So a good thing is actually that you don't need a lot to think about it. You put just the keywords in it and you start the search. So that is the case if you are just at the beginning or you don't have a real idea how to search and what to search. If on the other side you are in a situation that you want to go for a precise search, then I would actually advise you to click on the button which is here in blue circle, where it is written actually advanced search, and choose that one because that is where you go to the mask, where you can really actually go for searches for in a very precise, or at least more precise way, and then the normal and actually smart search part. Once you push the button advanced search, you will find these masks in front of you. In fact, you will see that there are a lot of fields which are separated, and they are somehow connected together by, let's say, and or. And you can put the correct search terms in those fields. Before going to each field that I can explain to you what or which search term you can put in which of these fields, I want to mention that, as you see, you have most of the time a possibility to choose. For example, if you see there are some ands, and near to the and to all of these logical ands, you find a sort of triangle. If you click on that triangle, you will have the possibility to change and to or, for example, or to not. So you can actually choose which logical, let's say, which logical actually connection do you want? Is it an and or is not? Per definition, is that what is written there? So there is an and between all the parts, and then inside each field you might have and or. Then you have the possibility for each of the fields to choose, yes, for example, in which field you are searching. Also, that can be changed. Maybe we talk about it a little later, but for the time being, actually, you have all the fields that might be interesting. And then near to the field, you have the possibility also to choose between all, any, and there is actually a sign of equality, which means exactly the same. So what all, any, and equal means, I will talk about it when I'm talking about each field and how to fill each of these fields of this mask, and then it will be much more clear. In Espasnet in advanced modus, the first field is about searching in text fields. In the standard version, as you click on the advanced search, you will find, in fact, the mask including these text fields to search only in title or and in title or abstract. However, in fact, if you uh, click on the scroll down menu you have where it is written title, or for example title or abstract, you will see that there is a scroll down menu which comes out where you can change these fields as you want. If you go for text fields and open that scroll down menu, you will see that you have the possibility to search with the same words in the title, in abstract, in the description, in the claims, in title or abstract, in title, abstract, or claims, or even in all text fields. That is, in fact, in full text, of course, given that the full text really exists in the database. However, if you put in the full text, it will search in any text field which is available on that database. Then, if you go further to right next to the field or next to the menu where you can choose in which text field you want to search, there is another scroll down menu. Normally and by standard, it is written all. If you click on that menu, there is a new menu or scroll down menu coming out where you can read any, all, proximity, and then you have actually the equality sign. What does that mean is, in fact, if you choose all, the machine would search for all search terms which you put in that field. That is a so-called logical and between all that given search terms. You can actually change it to or by choosing any. In that case, it would search for any of them if they are in fact present. So any is equal to logical or. Then you have actually still a very powerful tool, which is proximity. In that case, you can search terms related to each other. For example, a very first search term, which is laser, and the second search term, which is, let's say, semiconductor. So if you want to search semiconductor laser, you have the possibility to search these two search terms related to each other. Choosing proximity would give you other possibilities where you can decide if you want to search these two terms within the distance of number of words you want to decide. For example, within the distance of two words, in that case there is no order, so it will search for you semiconductor, let's say laser, but also laser of semiconductor. All that can be searched within a distance of two words. Then you can order it. For example, you want that one word is always coming after the other one, so that is actually the order. In that case, you have the possibility to choose word array, which is actually the ordered one. You can also choose the option appears before, which means actually that these two words are somehow connected, and you find only documents where one of the words appears just before the other one. Or you can search these terms in the same sentence or in the same paragraph. So these are actually the proximity search possibilities, which is quite good. And then also there is the possibility of search with this equal sign. The equal sign means actually you are searching exactly the same, let's say, the same search term as you wrote it. So it would not search another one. Normally, Espasnet tries to search for other possibilities if somehow usual. So if you write, for example, photography, it might by PH, it might also search for photography written with F at the beginning, for example. So instead of PHOTO, it searches also for FOTO. So if you put equal, that means actually you want that exactly the search term would be searched. So for example, photo with PH and not photo with F. So that is also another possibility to do it. Uh, these are actually quite well established possibilities to search. And you see, the possibility to search in the full text give you a huge power of search. That is, of course, on the other side, and it might be quite um, um, uh, um, uh, disturbing, because uh, searching the search terms in the whole document might bring also a lot of documents that you don't need, because the search term is for some reason appearing in some other parts that you don't want. So how to use them in order not to have a lot of junk, let's say, documents that you don't want to see, and how to somehow to concentrate on the matter you want to see is, of course, something that you have to learn by doing searches and by actually somehow doing the fine tuning in order to be capable of doing the searches without losing a lot of time somehow disregarding documents you don't want to see. So as mentioned before, you can combine search terms in text fields by using all or any in order to combine them like a logical and or like a logical or. You have also the possibility of using the proximities and so on. Be careful because how you to write that search term that would affect your search. One thing which is very important to know that, for example, the apostrophes or hyphens are not accepted, and they are treated as blanks if you want. At least it does not give any failure as a sign. Then you have the possibility of using truncation symbols. Truncation symbols are replacement characters. That is actually a sign that can replace a number of sign of any length. In that case, for example, the truncation star stands for a chain of signs at any length. So if you search for the search term car with a star, what is searched for is actually all words starting with car, C-A-R. So it searched for car, it searched for cars, but it searched also for card, it searched for cards, and it searched also for cardiography, cardiology, cartography, everything which start with C-A-R. Then you can, of course, use the truncation symbol question mark, which stands for one or no sign. In that case, car with a question mark would search for car, it search for cars, it search for card, it search also for care, C-A-R-E. However, it does not search for example, cards and so on and so forth, because there are more than one sign. And if you are searching with the truncation symbol, which is called, in fact, if you want, hashtag or dièse or whatever actually you think, it search exactly for one sign. So in fact, in that case, car with this hashtag would search for only for cars and card and care, everything with CAR plus at least and exactly one sign. So type of searching or search words would change, in fact. Uh, be careful because before using a truncation, there must be at least three signs before star. For at least two signs before, let's say, the question mark and hashtag. Uh, that means, in fact, actually, you cannot search CA star. That is not possible because there are only two signs before star. You need at least three signs to do it. The new SBUSnet offers you also some possibilities to use truncation within within some word. For example, you can use the truncation question mark COLO question mark R, and it is searching for two way of writing color in English. That is British English, COLOUR, and the American English, which is COLOR. So with one sign, you search both of them. However, you cannot start, for example, some words with let's say truncation star, and then you have just the ending of the word. That would not work. So that is actually starting with a truncation is not accepted. Also, putting star within a word would not be accepted, and so on and so forth. So normally, these truncation are thought to be at the end of the search terms. For, let's say, some cases, it is accepted that you use hashtag or at least a question mark within a word. The next field is dedicated to the number searches. So you can search there for publication numbers, application numbers, and also the priority numbers. In fact, among all these three, I would say publication numbers are the one that you might encounter the most, and are the easiest one actually to search for. Because the way how application numbers and priority numbers are given are might be different in different countries, and to translate them in the way that Espasnet save them is not always very easy. So we concentrate ourselves on the publication numbers for the time being. The publication numbers consist of a country code, which are two letters, US for United States, PE for Peru, for example, CH for Switzerland, and so on and so forth. And then you have a consecutive number, which can be a variable from 1 to 12 digits. Uh, it is in fact not necessary, and it is even not searched for if you put then the kind codes. So let the kind codes aside. Just two letters plus the consecutive number is enough for the publication numbers. Um, you can, in fact, search up to a number of publication numbers, and they are always actually linked among them by or. As you see, it is per definition chosen any, which means or. So if you put 10 publication numbers, or sometimes even more, they will be searched, all of them, and not just one of them. Then for the US numbers, be careful that you might find the numbers not in the quite adequate form. You have, in fact, especially for the applications, not for the publications, you have US, then you have the year, for example, US 2018. Then you have actually a number, consecutive number, which is coming. These number starts almost always, actually, if you find in publications with a zero, you shall put the zero aside and then search for that. In that case, the total number is a maximum of 10 digits. So you have 2018, and then you have six consecutive digits which are coming together. For PCT applications, they have been a change over the years. So if you are searching for PCT applications, be careful, because all the publications before 13th of June 2002 were published under the number WO, like actually WIPO. Then you have a two-digit number YY, which can be, for example, 7981. And then you have a five-digit consecutive number. Then from that date on, you got to the form up until almost 1.5 year later, up until the end of 2003. You find the same enumeration. You have actually WO at the beginning, then you have actually a 2-digit number for year, that is, for example, 03, and then you have 6 digits for consecutive numbers. And since 2004, it is in the form WO. Then you have 4-digit number, so WO 2010, and you have 6 digits as the number. So that is actually, if you are going for the PCT searches, you know more or less in which year it was, and you have the number of publication. You might construct it yourselves and search in that way. Espasnet gives you also the possibility to search by dates. So you can search for a very special date. If you want to search, for example, for the publications which were published on the date 21st of January 2014, you can in fact do that, knowing that you search only in a publication date, and then you put in a format like 2014 01 14. So that is actually the 14th of January 2014. You can also search by year and month, or by just by year, or there are also maybe other writing possibilities with using slash and so on, which are acceptable. You can also search in time durations, and that is maybe more interesting in that case. So you want to know, more or less the publication should have been done, let's say, among between 2000 and 2002. There you have the possibility either by putting duration like 2000 double point 2002 or 2000, then you have sort of actually comma 2002. All that would search for you from the 1st of January 2000 up until 31st of December 2002, so over the whole 2 years. And you have in the scroll down menus, as I told you, that they exist. If you go to the scroll down menu, you can also choose the option within, and then put the dates in it. So you put actually 2000, then you choose within 2002. So that is actually you are searching within 2000 and 2002. You can also make even if you want actually more adequate dating. So if you want just to know between which day of which month of which year up until which day another day in another month another year, you can do also here your choice. Does not make sense always. I would rather keep it bit broader. So if you want to go for the beginning of the year up until the end of the year, just putting the years that, and in that search field, and that might bring you actually higher security of a good search. Of course, name searches are also text field searches. So you could have done it in the very first fields by choosing actually to search in the names, but the advanced mask give you the possibility to do it actually separately. So they actually chose for you. You can search for applicant's name, and also or in the inventor's name. That is actually if you put several applicants or several inventors name, they are coupled together by and or. As you see, any is the standard actually chosen option. You can actually search for names like John Smith, and so on and so forth. Be careful that signs which are not we call it actually special signs, like I don't know, E with accent and so on. Uh, uh, are nowadays accepted, but you shall be cautious about that, because you don't know how the name was transmitted to the database. Maybe the one who actually transmitted it did not transmit it correctly. So if you search, take both possibilities in order to be sure that you searched in a complete way. For the rest of it is actually quite straightforward, and you can do name searches. Then you have the possibility, of course, to search in the pattern classification. And if you have a very, let's say, a good pattern classification, you can do the pattern classification directly, put it in there, and then search in those classes. For the symbols of, let's say, truncation, in the CPC field, you can make a truncation only after a complete IPC class. As I told you, CPC is based on IPC and goes more to the details. That is why actually the CPC classes have the full, at least in the signs, they have the full signs of an IPC class, and they have some more actually signs after that class. So by making a truncation like star, you will got all those possible IPC classes. Sorry, CPC classes. Then, if you search in CPC class or IPC class, normally these fields are indexed. That is, you do not need any truncation. You can search on different levels. So if you want to search only in section B, put just B on that, and you don't need to put anything else, like for example a truncation like a star. The same goes for actually if you want to search in a class B65, in the subclass B65D, or in even groups and in complete classification. So what you need is, in fact, to know that they are indexed. You put just the symbols of class B65, for example, and then I mean, the SPASnet will search automatically only in that class B65, and you don't need any supplementary sign to make sure that it search in all possibilities of that class. As I told you before, SPASnet gives you the possibility to make searches by using some keywords in the CPC classification. So that is, for example, done here. You can go on the very first site of the SPASnet search. There you find the classification search. You click on that. You will be on this mask where you can actually make some CPC searches. Either you know the code, you can put the code in it, B65, 21, etc., etc., and then you see how is the class defined, or you can search for classes by using keywords. That is what I did here. For example, I searched for air condition with, of course, a truncation, so that's also air conditioning is in it. Then for buses or cars, and so on and so forth. So um, uh, these classification search give you normally some, let's say, propositions. One of the proposition, the first one is the B60H100. And if you see that, it is actually the classification about heating, cooling, or ventilating devices, which are in fact that of interest for this search. So if I go through that classification, I will find a CPC classification which is B60H100357. It is about air conditioning arrangements specially adapted for particular vehicles. And there is a subgroup of that, that is B60H100371, which is actually air conditioning for vehicles carrying large numbers of passengers, for example, buses. So exactly that is the class I was searching for, where the air conditioning for buses and for larger vehicles are accepted. So then you have now the possibility to check on the left side of this classification. If you do that check mark as I showed here, encircled in red, then on your right hand side there is a possibility coming up which is called find patents. You need just to click on that find patents, and in that case, in fact, the SPASnet would search all the documents which were classified in that special classification. So you can take a CPC classification directly to your search by using first the CPC classification search, then checking the class or the classes which are interesting for you, and then go for find patents, and you will find patents in those classes. So there is also another possibility to combine a classification search with keyword search you might did before. So that is also uh, another aspect which is quite useful when using classification searches. So now we go back to an example of doing a search by keywords. You remember about our rolling board. At that time, actually, I showed you how to make a search string using concepts and, in fact, actually using synonyms inside the concept. So let's take exactly the same example and go for the same search. So first thing I did, in fact, as you can see, I chose to search four times all these, let's say, all these concepts in title or abstract. That is, of course, not a very broad search. It is a search very restricted, because I assume that you might find exactly the same aspects as I told you in abstract and in the title. So it was about a rolling board having an exchangeable and elastically deformable footboard. So the four concepts being actually rolling board, the exchangeability, the deformability, the elastically deformability, and the other one was actually the footboard. So as you see on the left side, under the slide, you on the lower part of the slide, you can see actually these four concepts are again there. So for example, for the concept of rolling board, we chose words like scooter and also skateboard, things like that. So I put actually scooter and skateboard with, of course, the truncation, which is very important. Then the second concept was about a board or footboard. The third concept was about elastically deformable, and the fourth was about actually exchangeability, so exchangeable, disassemblable, removable, and so on and so forth. So I put that and I show you how, and I showed you before how to choose the text fields you want. So I changed all the text fields to title and abstract. I made a connection with and between all of them, and inside each of these concepts I chose any in order to use actually the logical or between them, either or. Then what we do is now just push the button search, and let's see what happens. So if you do exactly the same thing I did, you will find just after pushing the button a list of hits that was found that are all in a way or another fulfill exactly the criteria we asked for. Be careful, because that is actually the huge difference between Espasnet and, for example, a Google search. When you do a mistake by Google search, when you misspell some word, Google correct it automatically and search also for the correct spelling. That is not what happens by Espasnet. Espasnet does not correct anything. It is sort of stupid. If you want intelligent machine, it is stupid because it does not intervene in what you did. So if you misspell something, they will of course search for the wrong word. It is your duty somehow to make sure that you spell correctly. And for that, of course, I would say actually truncations are quite important. So if you did actually the right spelling and you did exactly the same steps as I told you, you will find a list of results. Now, you can actually, at the time as I did the search, I found 38 results, which is not that much. And I can go and you can go through all of them in order to find out which one is exactly the document we have. So we had in that case also another hint, which we can put it in the search or use it now. We knew that there was a Mr. actually Wim Uboter who invented that. We wanted, in fact, to find the invention of this person, or in fact, we can even read each of these applications and publications in order to find out which one is the correct one. By doing that, what we find out is that the hit number 16 is in fact exactly the one we searched for. The inventor name is actually Wim Uboter, for example. It is done by Micro Mobility Systems. And we have also other details that we can find out if we want. So on the very first, if you click on this hit number 16, for example, or the number you find there, you will actually have the details of that, which opens just near to the hit. Then you have then the possibility to, for example, go for the bibliographic data. These are actually the very first page data we know, or we might read the description, we might read actually the claims drawing. You have access to original documents and so on, but let's go step by step so that we see actually which information can be found on which of these in which of these drawers that you see on the top of the hit. So now you can click on the advanced search button again so that the hit can be demonstrated in a broader way. Don't worry, because you can again click on that button and you will have exactly the query you did for the search.
So if you do that now, you will see more or less the same picture as I have in under my slide, where you can choose among which part of the of these patent, of these publication you want to see. You have on the left side, you see, first of all, the bibliographic data. Then you have description, that is the description as it is in the application. Then you will have the claim, drawings. Then you have the possibility to see the original document and download it. I will show you how it works. Then you have the possibility to see the citations. We will talk about that again in legal stages. You have then just below that for this document, which is actually a PCT document, which became afterwards a European document, etc. You have the possibility to go directly to the register, to the EP register of that document. If you look at there, you have the possibility either to click on the arrow where it is written register, or if you want to see all possible registers, because these documents might have other family members which are registered in other countries, then you want to see all of them, you can use actually the global register arrow and go to see which possibilities you have. You have from global dossier, you might even have access directly to USPTO register and to some other registers without actually any need to go and search directly on the register of that patent office. Then now I'm going to concentrate myself first of all on the right hand side, where you find encircled in red, it is written available in, and in blue, or encircled in blue, it is written, for example, patent translate. These are two scroll down menus where you can find a way in order to visualize the same document also in other languages. I'll talk about that in the next slide. So if you click on the available in scroll down menu, there will be actually a choice of languages in which this publication has been also published. So these are in fact official translations that were published. You can find, for example, some part of these document in English, some part maybe also in French, some part also in German. And in that case, special case, there is even another not identified, which, if you look through it, is actually a Japanese translation of the same document. So in available in, you will find all publications in different languages. So these are official translations, of these documents which were published. By any chance, you might not find the language you want that the translation shall be done. So in that case, you have still the possibility to go to the menu patent translate, and if you look and click on that, you will see that you will have the possibility to make a machine translation. It's mostly done by Google, a machine translation of the document, of a part of the document in a language of your choice. There is a huge list of different languages where these patents can be translated directly into. Spanish, for example, is one of them. You have to go through actually the alphabetic order. So Spanish would be on the downside of these scroll down menu, but you have this possibility as well. So you can actually even translate it into Spanish or any other language which might be more familiar to you. The point is that don't forget that these translations are, of course, only machine translation, and it is not the same as if it was done officially by a translator. So it is the best as it gets by a translator, which is just a machine. And at least that might give you a hint to understand what the document is about. But you shall not expect much more than that, at least at this time. Maybe one day these machine translations become more and more powerful and they can do exactly the same job. For the time being, they are good, they are quite good, but they are not perfect.
Just after the pattern translate menu, I mean, just on the right hand side of that, you will see a triple point sign. If you click on that triple point sign, there will be another menu which will open where you find, for example, download, print, and share this patent. By clicking on the print, you can print directly this document. Normally, it's not that you want. What you want is actually to have a copy of that document. So in that case, I would suggest you to click on download, and then you will find the possibility to download the original document. Then now if you click on original document, this document would be somehow downloaded in PDF format, and so you can store it wherever you want on your local computer. So that is also a way to put this document aside. I will show you that there are other possibilities to put them aside. There won't, which is not local, of course, but that might still help you in order to do the search the same. If you want to do the same search, or if you want to go and see exactly the same document, there is also a possibility to keep the documents you found, and you found that these documents are quite important for you, aside, and then you can find them again without doing all the search from the beginning. For the time being, in fact, one of the possibilities is, of course, to have a local copy by using this menu and download the original document. There are two ways of adding patents or documents or publications to a list that you can keep, or that is automatically kept for you on the Espacenet, so that you can actually see them again and again whenever you want. One of them is actually in the list of hits you found. You can check the patents which might be interesting for you. So if there are some of that publications interesting for you, that is maybe the easier way to do that. You check for that. You check that documents. I did it here, number 16, number 17, and number 18 as an example. Then on the top of this list, you find again, just after relevance, you find a triple point again. If you click on that triple point, you will see the picture that you see on the right hand side. There will be a menu which says, for example, download. You can download maybe the first pages of them in PDF, and there are some possibilities of download. You can look at it. It is interesting by itself, because you can even download a list of these documents in an Excel file, which might be interesting also to keep them as an Excel file. Or we can print all of them, or also, and that is the one I want to talk about. You have the possibility to add selection to my patent. So once you did that, if you choose add selection to my patents, these documents would be kept in a menu which is called my patents. I will show you where you can find them, but before doing that I will show you another way of adding documents individually this time to your patents. There is a second way to add documents, this time individually, to your patents, to the patents that you keep to review again and again. That is when you are on a certain document. And I showed you actually these pictures several times. So once you are there, on the top, on the left side, just near to the patent number, you find, or the publication number, you find a star, which I encircled here in blue. If you click on that star, this document will be automatically kept in your space, in your and you can actually again review it when you are going to your space. Now I will show you how to find your space, how to find these documents once actually you put them away. In your browser where you do the searches, if you look at the page, you will find on the top a sort of strip where it starts normally with the My Espasnet, then you have all the buttons and, for example, classification search, and so on and so forth, results, advanced search button, and so on. Um, if you click now on My Espasnet, you will be directed to a space which is actually dedicated to you. Espasnet would recognize you each time from your IP address, and keeps, in fact, a certain let's say documents and certain uh, part of your searches there for you, so that you can in fact use them again and again if you want, and that is a sort of convenient way of keeping also record of what you have done, and also of the documents that might be interesting for you. So by clicking on My Espasnet, you come directly on the page where you find My Patents, and you will find there all the patents you selected in the way we told you before, either by selecting them individually by clicking on the stars, or by selecting them actually collectively by making a selection and adding them to your patents. Whatever it is, you will refine them on and on again each time you connect to Espasnet, if you are, of course, working from the same computer. Then the other thing is, in fact, if you click on just what is written beside my patent, that is my queries, you will find a list of the queries, the search queries that you effectuated or conducted during the past. So even actually your searches, what was searched and so on, is somehow registered and saved for you. So you can redo the search after a certain while if you want, for example, to make a sort of ongoing monitoring. So you have actually a search query and you run it every, I don't know, 5, 6 months in order to know, is there a new patent out there or not? And that is actually the way to do it, because you run it again and you will find actually the list, and you can find out what is the difference to the list you had before. You can actually discard them. It is a possibility given to you also actually to discard these search queries if you don't want them anymore. but if you don't not have nothing, you can keep it. Then just near to that, and that is the third possibility in the same category of MySPASnet. There you find your settings, and you can decide about what setting you want. For example, how many queries shall be kept, or for how long, or maybe you don't want, because of some reason, you think that the because of confidentiality is not granted, or by any means, normally it is actually granted, but if you think that is not granted, you can also decide not to keep any of your queries. That is all set in your settings. Or for example, how many of the patents shall be kept, and so on. So everything actually can be set there once for all, and then each time you come back to MySPASnet, you will find the same setting. You will find actually the patents you kept away, and you will find, if you want it, so also the queries that can be reused, or at least reviewed. SPASnet gives us also the possibility to search for the citations. You can do it easily by clicking on the word citations, which is encircled in green, and then you will be directed to the site where all of the documents which were cited or citing these documents are shown. So in red and encircled part, and that is what you are seeing in front of you, is the list of all, in fact, cited documents. That is, these are the documents which were cited during the procedure or during the procedures for these documents. It is actually also called backward citing. So that is actually the backward citations or cited documents. Then I have encircled, in fact, citing documents in blue. These are documents which are citing these documents. In other words, actually, these are documents for which the document you found were cited. As I mentioned before, normally actually citing and cited documents are documents which are from very similar field, or at least there are some similarities in the solution that can be found in both documents. So these citing documents are also called forward documents. So you have in fact access directly to backward and forward citations on the same start. Then also there is another interesting thing which is offered by SPASnet, that is actually encircled in purple at the outmost right side of the slide, and it is actually these CCD. By the CCD you can extract the whole list of citing and citation in a CCD format, and from that one you can actually even generate an Excel file, whatever you want. Actually, it is actually a very powerful tool, this CCD, which is elaborated for citations in general. Uh, uh, what you can now do is, in fact, if you think that one of these documents is interesting for you, can just click on that document. If you see the red arrow in the middle, for example, you can click on the very first cited document, because it is about a collapsible scooter. So that might be some interesting solutions out there. You can click on that, and then you will be directed directly to SPASnet side of these documents. So you can actually read the document. You will have exactly the same site as we have seen before. You can read this document, you can print this document, you can do whatever you want, and that is actually what will be shown in the next slide. So by clicking on one of these cited documents, for example, you will find the following mask in front of you. You will find actually a list of all citing or cited documents, depending on which part you actually clicked. And in fact, the document on which you clicked will appear first, so you can actually see what is the document about. And as I told you, you have all the possibilities again. You can see through the citations of the citation, so go in the backward citation back into the very first patents which were cited, or going in forward citation up until newer documents. So you can actually again read the description, and you have the possibility, of course, as I mentioned before, to choose, for example, all these citations, because the whole list is coming there. And you can, in fact, in that case, try to put them aside into your space. As I showed before, you can do it easily by checking all the documents, or the documents which are interesting for you, using the triple point, as I showed you before, or by clicking on the star on each of the documents individually. In any case, these documents will be stored in your space, and you can see them whenever you want. Now, no panic, because you can get whenever you want back to the document, the very first document which were found, and that is actually maybe the main interest, just by looking at the here in the slide at the outermost left side. It is encircled in red. You will see that actually the whole path, how you came to that, is showed there. And if you want to go back to the document, which was actually the main document you found, just click where the arrow shows on the number of that document, and you will be back exactly to the same place we were before. Uh, that's actually quite convenient, because in fact you can always go back and forth without fearing that you lost what you did before. And you can actually have always in view where are you now. As you see, the path indicates, for example, how you came from results to the document, and then, for example, to the citations, at which place you are, and you can find it. So again, you can if you are interested in a citation of the citations, don't hesitate to go also to that citations, and then of course you can still come back without fearing a loss of the work you did before. So now we have learned a lot about the patent searches. We learned a lot about where to search, especially actually how to search on Espasnet, the possibilities we have on the Espasnet, and so on. So let's play a sort of example together. So we try to build some real examples, some. Okay, it is actually fictitious, but somehow could be real example. Let's say that we are in the year 2015. It is very important because of the dates that we think we were at the year 2015, and going together out to make a let's say a grill with friends and so on. And as you're in Latin America, of course, corns are there, and so then all of a sudden the beautiful idea, for example, yeah, we can use corn ears, corn cobs without grains, by immersing them in wax or things like that, and use them as a lighter for a grill or for chimney, for everything. So you can actually use that as a sort of fire starter. So that is actually a beautiful idea. Why not? It can work, and we know that it can work, and we have not seen that yet on the market. So that might be, in fact, a good idea in the year 2015 to think about it. How can we proceed with this idea, and what can we make out of it?
There are several questions that shall be answered. The main question remains actually for each of business ideas we have maybe is actually am I allowed to do that? So the freedom to operate question is very, very important. So the question shall be asked in a precise way. For example, can I bring it to a certain market? Let's say, for the sake of this example, can I bring that to German market? Because I think German market is a good market. People are very, I don't know, into barbecue, and they would use it. It is a big market in Europe, 80 million people out there. So that is actually a good market for my innovation. Can I sell it in German market without being bound by some patent? So that is one of the questions. And the other question, the auxiliary question, is of course, is this idea new and inventive, and so eventually patentable? So this question is also of importance, though maybe actually in a certain way, not as important as the question of freedom to operate. But of course, if you bring something to the market and you have a certain success, you don't have any protection, it can be copied very easily. So it is a good question to ask at the same time, do I have the possibility to patent it? And if you don't do it beforehand, after it is too late because of the issues on novelty and so on, you're on selling, you're on actually bringing things to the market, may in fact kill the novelty of your idea. So in that case, of course, the question of novelty and inventive steps, patentability in general, is also a question that shall be answered. So let's search. So the whole thing we did up until now is done for that search. First part, try to find a good search string. Try to build a good search string. For that, first of all, think of what are the main elements of that invention. You remember it was about a corn cob, corn ears, whatever you name it. That is the first concept. Inside the concept, these are actually synonyms you can use. Then the second concept is actually impregnated by paraffin, wax. Another synonym might be cerezine. There are a lot of actually synonyms there. And then the application would be as fire starter or barbecue grill, fire lighter, whatsoever. So let's build our search string, put it into our search mask, and see what happens. So here I started with a very quick and dirty search, without really going to the details. What I searched is very, very basic. So I don't really want maybe to put all the search now, because I don't know if there are classes where I can search for. And I just put three very basic, let's say, terms in there. I put the term corn, even without any truncation. It's normally not very, let's say, advised to do that. Another one was actually paraffin, and the other one was lighter. So it is very restricted, as I say, and I search in English just in title or abstract. So very restricted search, just to see what comes out. Is there any class that can I search in depth, and so on and so forth. And go. Now we click on the search button to find out what comes out. So if you do the same research in parallel or just afterwards, you will find exactly one result, and that is the result. It is called charcoal lighter. So it is about a lighter, we are sure about that. If it is a good or a bad news, we will see it when we are looking at the document. So let's look at the document. So it's just one document, it's not that hard to read it, but let's start by reading at the beginning just the abstract. Maybe we find something interesting. So the abstract says that it is about a lighter for charcoal and firewood, comprising dry corn cob matter with the kernels removed, a support material which is impregnated with a paraffin and or cerosine. The corn cob matter is used either in the form of pieces having a length about 5 centimeter or as powder obtained by grinding, which is compressed after impregnation to form pieces. So the result is in fact somehow good, bad, I don't know. We are talking a little bit later about if the result is good or not. But what clear is that the idea I had is not new. There is a publication which says exactly what I thought of. So that means, in fact, at least one of the questions can now be answered. So go back to the questions and see which part of the question is answered. Make it as a summary. What was the idea? Corn cob emerged in wax as lighter for chimney, fire, grill, etc. So the first question, can I patent it in Germany or elsewhere in any country in the world? And the answer is clearly no. The reason is lack of novelty. This idea cannot be patented anymore. It is not patentable. It is in fact quite difficult to somehow argue something else, because that is exactly the same idea. It's really nothing new in that. You might find some way to make it new. The question is actually, does it really matter so that you add something just to have a patent or not? I let the question aside. But my real question was at the beginning, not that if it was somehow patentable. That was actually auxiliary question. The real question was actually, can I bring it to German or elsewhere market? This question is still not answered, because there is a patent application there. We have seen it. Is this patent application somehow did it become to a sort of patent? And if yes, is this patent, for example, valid for Germany? That we did not look at it. So, as that is a European patent, what we found, it is an easy task for us to now to see if, for example, what says the European register, and if necessary, I have also to check German register, because I want to sell it in the German market. If I wanted to sell it, for example, in the American market, I had also to search in American actually patents if that patent exists, or a similar patent exists, and then consult their registers. However, now I want to sell it in German market, so I have to search in European and consult also German register. As it is a European patent application, the document we found, so it is nothing easier, in fact, to just click on the sign register, which you see on the top on left, and then you are redirected directly to the European Patent Register, so the Register of European Patent Office, and you can consult it there. If it was for some other patent, or if there was, for example, also American, Most of the US PTO documents can also be consulted, or the register of US PTO can be consulted through a click on Global Dossier. That is actually just next to the register. So if you go to a Global Dossier, you can find actually if there is an American, let's say, patent family member, you can be directed to that. There are actually also other patent offices where you can actually have access directly. That is the case, for example, for most of the Japanese as well. So, but we are interested in that document because of Germany, because European patent application might be relevant for Germany. So let's see what happened to this application. So looking at the European Register, you will find a lot of information there. You can even actually look through the whole dossier. So it means actually you can see which communication has been done between the assignee and the office, at which date. All that communication is actually visible on that page. So you can actually go through all that and try to find out what happened to that documentation and so on. But let's start actually from the beginning. So just on the top, after the title and so, you will find this remark. It is written, the application is deemed to be withdrawn, and so it means that actually the applicant did not want to go further, seems at least, and as that was actually the event in the year 97, and since 97 till 2014 nothing has changed, so you are sure this patent application is dead forever, and so that means in fact, okay, the patent does not exist anymore. Does it mean that you're free to do it? No, it's still not, because you don't know why this applicant stopped his patent application. So you have actually to find out why he actually deemed to withdraw his document, or why this applicant did not want to continue on that patent document. So one of the ways to look at it is actually, as I told you, you can read all the communications. On the other side, let's see what happened during this search and of course actually examination. So there are, for the reason of the search, you can find, for example, the search report. Also in the same page you find directly the documents which were cited. So if you see through the documents which are cited, you find a French document, a US document, which are signed by category Y, and another EP document, another US document, which are cited, but they have the category A. So just to be clear, what are these categories? When a patent examiner searches and finds documents, he categorizes that documents he found. So if he gives the category X, that means actually this document is relevant to the novelty of the search document. An X document is in fact a novelty-killing document. If you have a Y document, you cannot have just one Y document. You need at least two Y documents. And two Y documents means actually these both documents combined together would be relevant for the inventive step of the application. And a document from category A means it is actually just worthy to be mentioned, just worthy, in fact, to be cited without any relevance to novelty or inventive step. So the two first documents, the one with Y citation, was from the side of view of the patent examiner the documents that are worthy to look at, because these both documents together would somehow prevent this application to be accepted due to lack of inventive step. So our next step is, in fact, to look at what we found out. So in summary, found out a document, a European application with the title charcoal lighter. If you read actually the patent claim number 1 was more or less our idea. Lighter for charcoal and compound consisting of dry corn cob with the kernels removed as the carrier material, which is impregnated with paraffin and or cerezin. So that is actually exactly what we would have claimed for our idea as well. My question was actually, can I bring it to German market? Then I looked through the let's say the concerning register, which is actually European Patent Register. I saw that it is still an A1 document, which means actually the publication with the search report together. The register tells me application is deemed to be withdrawn since several years. That means actually the application is dead. And the reason here for was that the search report found 2 documents, a French document, an American document, that together would in fact affect the inventive step of this idea. Is it like that or not? I cannot judge just like this without really look at that document or on those documents, both of those documents. So let's take a look at those documents. There is also another way, of course, to find about those documents. As I told you, the publication is an application with the search report together. So one of the possibilities was actually that to look at the whole publication. At the last pages, you will find the search report, and the search report, in fact, indicates exactly the same thing. Indicates that these 2 documents, the French and US document, are relevant to the inventive step of all the claims. So you could have found that also by reading the search report. We did it another way. We went to the European Patent Register and we found it there, but the result is the same. The good thing about the way we did, that means actually to go to the European Patent Register instead of reading just the search report, is that when you find these patent numbers there, you just need to click on that patent numbers, and you are redirected to the ESPASnet with these patent exposed. So you can actually do it just by remaining on your computer by clicking from one to the other one. So if you click on that, you will find actually this US patent document, and which is about the fire starter, comprises a wax and wood base and a wick protruding from the base. The wood is compressed wood fragments from which the natural oil has been removed, and these fragments are mixed with melted wax in substantially equal portions. A flammable structure such as a pine cone is dipped in wax and seated in the base in an upright position, and that is actually can make some flame. So what is said just in this abstract is that it is about a fire starter. This fire starter is consisting of compressed wood fragments or any flammable structure And as an example, it says actually a pine cone. And then these, let's say, flammable structure is then mixed with melted wax or dipped in wax, and then it is actually the fire starter. So do you remember what was our idea? Our idea was about actually a corn cob with the kernels removed, in fact, impregnated with the wax. The point is that here he is not talking about the possibility to use corn cob. So fact is, this document is not novelty killing for our document. It is, in fact, however, very important. That is the next state of the art. Why? Because this document is talking about any flammable structure. And as example, he says it can be a pine cone. So pine cone is not a corn cob. We all agree on that. But what is or what shall be else taken as a flammable structure? So that is a real question we have now. The point is that let's see if the second document would help us to find out what other structures might be seen as a flammable or something which can be burned. So now take a look at the French document. Of course, unfortunately, it is just in French. I'm sure you are actually Spanish speaking, so most of the words are also quite familiar for you. I try to do my best in order to translate it. So this French document is talking about combustible, which means actually something which can be put into flames, or it is actually burnable, whatever you want. Okay, so it's combustible. And what are combustible? That can be any, let's say, agricultural waste and or agricultural production, such as the word which they use, that it here is rafle de maïs. Rafle de maïs is nothing else than a corn cob. And these corn cob can be compacted and pressed also. So what we are seeing here is, in fact, that this document tells us that, for example, the corn cob is a sort of flammable material, like many of other agricultural waste, and it can be compacted and pressed together. So now put these two documents together. The first one use in order to make some fire starter. It says one can use any type of, let's say, flammable structure, compact it, and then somehow impregnate it with wax or with paraffin or cerezine and make fire starter out of it, without mentioning corn cob. The second document says nothing else, that also corn cobs are flammable, and they can be compacted and pressed together. So put these two together means, in fact, yes, you can in fact press together, compact it, because it is a flammable structure. Also, corn cob can be used to do these fire starter. So there is no inventive step of that idea. Even for the document, for the European document, we found and at the date of application of that one, because these two documents have a publication date which are far, in fact, younger as the others. So that means actually at the moment of the application of the European patent, these two documents were known. They were already published. So they are part of state of the art. Putting them together, no inventive step for the European document. What does that mean for us? So that means for us, actually, we have a French document which is published 1981. We have a US document published in 1982. Our question was, can I bring that, let's say, innovation I had to German market or elsewhere in any other market? In that case, I can ask it. The answer shall come with a justification. First of all, the only patent we found is an application which is withdrawn. And I did not find any other document. But I have to say, I did not really search for any other document. So that is not a good justification. Are there any other patents? I don't know. I did not do the search, but I did something which is even better. I actually showed that since latest 88, since the publication of the US document, this idea is part of state of the art, and as this publication is older than 21 years, for example, in year 2015, these both documents are older than 21 years. These documents are free state of the art. That means there can be no other document, in fact, that holds and the claims such a thing like what I want to sell on the market. So I have found the freedom to operate, if you want. Yes, I can sell it not only in German market, almost everywhere in the world. I can sell that, at least technically, no problem of doing that. There is no patent that can be in force. Even if somebody comes with a patent, say, actually, I have this patent that is in force due to these two publications. And due actually to the publication of even actually the European patent, I can say you have no novelty, you have no inventive steps. I have the absolute freedom to operate. Good news, I can sell it. Bad news, I cannot protect it by a patent myself because it is not new, it is not inventive. Now, the decision is yours. Do you want to go further with this idea or not? At least you have freedom to operate. So that was actually our presentation about patent searches and the examples we could give to remain as general as possible. I hope now you have at least something to work with. And I want to ask you, so go and please start to make some searches in your own field. You will have the possibility to ask your questions, and if you have some difficulties to do something, to ask the question why that did not work, and so on and so forth, as soon as actually the date is coming. So as it was thought, this shall be actually a workshop so that you now are able to do it hands-on yourself. And I will then be one day again online in order to help you, in order to answer your questions. In other case, actually, you have my coordinates, even my telephone number if you want. But the most important one is actually the email address. So you can ask me if you want. You think actually you need to ask me something, don't hesitate contacting me by that email address, and I try my best to answer you in the best delay possible. I hope actually it was not too long for you. I hope you had at least a little bit of pleasure and learning something new. I thank you very much for your attention, and hope that one day we can meet each other. Otherwise, I hope you remain in good health, and you are doing good job by searching patents in your area.